What is up, you guys? Glitchiz here, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to bring you a quick little 101 sort of beginner's guide, going over the fastest routes to farm mixed portable fuel from trunks of cars. Now, you're probably wondering, what is the point of this video? We all know once you get to endgame, the best ways to farm fuel is to just set up a fuel farm in something like the oil fields in the Red Sands territory, or just do some warehouse defenses, things like that, which is true. However, a lot of players, when you're starting out a fresh season and you're in the first and second phases, you don't even have access to the Red Sands quite yet. And once you do, you may or may not be building your base in an oil field. So this is a great opportunity to collect a lot of fuel very quickly. It also combos very well with a new specialization mimetic that you can unlock called oil processing, which allows you to combine portable mixed fuel and stardust ore to create stardust source. And if you're like me and building multiple builds throughout the season and upgrading all of those pieces and things like that, you've probably come across the issue of running out of stardust source very quickly. So if you need some portable fuel quickly, and you are like me and aren't building even in the late game in an oil fields territory, then this guide will be really beneficial to you guys. You can get upwards of 300 plus portable mixed fuel within a matter of like 10-15 minutes. So I'm going to go over the two routes that I typically go. The first route is going to be the route I recommend in the first phase, once the entire map isn't opened up. And then once the map opens up more and you get into the second phase and the Red Sands unlocks, then a more optimized route opens up. You can do them separately, or what I like to do is I take a nice like 15-20 minutes and I actually do both routes back to back, because it's kind of just a one straight shot all the way down. So I'll go ahead and do a little time lapse showing you the routes here in a second. And all you got to do is loot every single basically downed vehicle on the side of the road along this particular route, and you're just going to be farming up a ton of fuel and some scrap parts along the way. So the first route that I want to recommend is going to be right here. It's going to be starting in the Iron River territory. You're going to want to pick up the northeast teleport tower and start at the top of this hill. And then I have it auto loaded to basically be able to see it on my mini map all the way down to this teleportation tower here, right below the riverbed on the Dayton wetlands territory. So we're going to follow this route all the way down from north to south and collect as much fuel as we can along the way. So let's go ahead and do that and watch the time lapse. I've also put all the portable fuel I previously had in my storage bins in the base, so we don't have anything in our inventory. So we'll get a really good idea of the total amount of fuel that you can get from this run. So let's go ahead and do it now, and I'll meet you guys back once the run is finished. All right, so now that we're at this point, a little bit further down the road, one thing I did quickly want to mention is, as you see, I drove by several types of cars. You'll kind of get an idea of which ones do and don't have items in the trunk. If they're kind of totally destroyed and the trunk's broken open, you know that they're not going to have any items in there. And then also the pure white, kind of like Prius hybrid looking vehicles, those won't have any items in the trunk either. So if you see those, feel free to skip by them. You're mainly going to want to go for all like the Mustangs and things like that, and the ones that aren't as broken down. Those are the ones that are going to have the fuel in it. Feel free to pick up these scavenge parts as well. They have a chance to have blueprints sometimes. And just keep on moving. Here's an example of one of those little Prius ones that won't have anything in the trunk, even though they are intact. Feel free to skip over those ones. Keep on moving. So we're starting to come towards the end of the first route here. And we're back at the teleporter. So the first route is done. And if we look at our inventory, we managed to get 111 portable mixed fuel. So that is a nice little chunk. And just to give you an idea, the oil processing perk that I talked about is a 15 portable fuel and one basically, or in case of the furnace, 5 stardust ore per 50 stack of stardust source. So if you do the math, it's basically 300 portable fuel for every 1,000 stardust source that you can make with that perk. So if you kind of compare it to like farming silos and things like that, it's actually pretty similar. So if you don't want to worry about burning through health items, or if your build isn't as good to kind of speed run some of those end game silos, this, you don't have to worry about taking any damage. It's super passive and just a chill little farming route. So you can get, if you have that oil processing perk, you can clearly get a ton of stardust source using the fuel that you get just from looting some trunks. So now that we're here, the next location that I want to recommend is going to be a little bit north. And you can do these back to back if you do them in the order I'm doing them now. So you would start here, come all the way down to the bottom teleporter, and then the next one, which I would recommend starting to combine these two routes once the full map opens up in the second and third phases, is basically going to start at this teleporter here, just outside of the Rift Anchor Alternate Reality Research Institute. So we can go ahead and teleport to this one. And because this is a later tier zone, we should get a little bit more barreled fuel, the portable mixed fuel on this run compared to the lower level one. I've seen upwards of 230 to 250 almost fuel on this. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to start basically right here where I made my marker, and then we're going to end right up here at the crest of this little peninsula, I guess, the northeast corner of the Red Sands territory and just follow this long road all the way down and do the exact same thing we did on this shorter route and just loot every single car along the way. One thing I would like to mention is once we get to this later zone, if you keep your eye out and keep your head on a swivel, you can potentially spot silver and gold mining ores along the road. So if you are looking for some of that as well, just keep looking left and right as you're driving along, and you may be able to spot some of them and loot those rare ores along the way. But let's go ahead and do this little run now, and I'll do a time lapse of this too. And then once we're all done with this final route, we'll look at the inventory and see what the total amount of fuel was. So you're basically gonna wanna walk down to the bottom of this hill, and the first car that you're gonna want to loot is gonna be right outside the gate of the Institute. You can drive down here if you want. And just be careful, some enemies do spawn at the gate, so you're going to want to loot this first one quickly. So go ahead, loot this first one, and then we'll be on our way here. Or you can just skip it because you keep getting shot. This is hard modes. The enemies are a little more aggressive. And you can loot these first ones on foot. They're pretty close together. And we'll hop back on the bike here in a second. Hey, look at that. Prime example. We got a nice little chunk of gold ore here. Make sure to snag that. On the final stretch now here, less than a kilometer left in the route. Just keep on looting away. Last couple little cars here. Should be only one really. And then we're done. All right, so now let's look at our total fuel across both runs. 340 fuel. So that's about 1,200 Stardust sources, if you think about it, approximately, for only what? 15 minutes of driving around. Didn't take any damage really. Didn't have to worry about fighting enemies, things like that. Don't have to worry about a build. So super convenient. And we also got a ton of scrap. So I guess the last thing I could do is just teleport back to base and break everything down and then get a total number. Curious if some of our scrap, like the fuel barrels, might break down into some more fuel. So we'll see here in a second. Might just be plastics. So 340. Let's go and break down all the stuff that we picked up. No more fuel, but we got 10 acid out of it, bunch of electronic parts, fabric, special parts. So you get a lot of decent crafting materials as well for different things to repair your bike and useful things like that. So really easy farm to do. Great in combination with the oil processing specialization mimetic. And yeah, that is pretty much it. The last thing that I did want to mention is that these basically trunk loots are on a same rotation as your chest and armor crates. Same type of things that you would loot if you're running the Blackfell run to get weapons and armor. The trunks run on that same type of timer. So it's going to be every 4 hours. And if you want to keep track of it a little bit more easily, if you join the Discord, I actually have a bot on the server where if you go to the Once Human chat, it's called Loot Timer. And that will basically notify you every 4 hours, and you can set your notifications to basically give you an alarm to let you know when it's resetting. So if you time it just right, because it's based off a world drop and not you looting it yourself, if you were able to get those 2 full runs done right before the 8 p.m. reset, for example, as soon as that hits 8 p.m., you could just turn around and do the entire route again in reverse and get almost 600 plus fuel. So there'll be another 1,000 Stardust source if you have that perk. So if you time it just right, you can make it a little bit more efficient. But that is the 2 different routes. You can do them separately as is and just do whatever one you have time for. Or like I said, I like to start at the bottom one, use the teleporter at the finish line to go right to the next one and then finish it out one right after another. You can do that as well to get even more. But yeah, that is pretty much the guide, you guys. If you enjoyed it, if you found it informative, be sure to smash that like button, comment down below. I appreciate all of your guys' feedback. Also, if you want to keep up to date on all my future content, I actually have a bunch of my weapon build loadout guides that I've been working towards completing all the different weapon types coming out here shortly. So be sure to turn on that notification bell to be alerted when those videos drop. But lastly, if you want to join a killer community of like-minded gamers, feel free to check the links down in the description and join us on the Discord. We've got over 1,000 members in there now, many of which are playing Once Human. So hopefully you jump in and we see you guys around here soon. But until the next one, hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you all later.